Hello, Lions Nation, and welcome back to another edition of Believe in Lions. It's brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Trevor Thompson. Glad to have you along with us as we continue our look at the NFC North. We started that out with the first place Chicago Bears in our last show. We'll go to the second place Green Bay Packers, who finished their season 9-7-1 last year. We'll see what's up with them this year as we bring in one of their all-time greats, a Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer, the franchise's all-time leading rusher, and the host of Believe in Packers. It's my pleasure to welcome back the great Ahman Green to the show. Ahman, thanks for taking the time here today. Really do appreciate it. And unfortunately,
no problem, Trevor. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you along. But unfortunately, my guy, we have to get this week started with what's become a news story, even bigger than a sports story or a Detroit Lions story. And that is the impending future trial of Terrion Arnold, their 24th overall pick back in the 2024 draft. This young kid was expected to have a big year at the cornerback position for the Lions, but now is up on charges. And let me read these charges to you. 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of armed robbery, 1 count of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit armed robbery. If it all goes south, he is facing life in prison. He was arraigned earlier this week, released on $1 million bond, and on Monday, the Lions released him. They're going to be thin at that position, but like I say, it's a news story more than even a Lions story right now. The kid is still just 23 years old. Your thoughts when you hear those kind of charges against a guy who seemed to have his entire future in the league ahead of him?
Oh, man, it's just very unfortunate to hear that. I mean, I heard it on the road. I've been traveling between Wisconsin and Florida the last couple of weeks, and I was, I think, at the airport, and it's called a tag big of seeing that, and I'm just like, man, I believe I say when you're young and just getting started in your profession, especially in the sports world, I'll speak on that only because I lived it myself. There's players that sometimes may just try to test the waters of certain things, and some of them things are things they, in their head, they know that it is a wrong decision, but they feel on some way they could get away with it or what have you. I mean, I'm not saying that's what his mindset was, but you get that kind of almost invincibility type of mindset, but that's not reality. Hopefully reality kicks in, but like, no, man, I can't do that, right? It was like a bad dream. Don't want to even think about that, but it's unfortunate. It's a player loss for them. A guy that was actually, a player on that team, was a dude, so he could make plays. But now, unfortunately, he has the biggest thing for him is, obviously not, taking life imprisonment right now. So I'm saying, like, I as an athlete, it's always weird to have these conversations and not about the sport, talking about football, baseball, basketball, Olympics, anything, esports competitions. But this is unfortunately the players living their lives off the field and make that mixing, together and see and this was unfortunately the result for him and for some players, throughout their careers. The biggest thing here is that regardless of the negative side, I hope he has somebody that's in his corner just to support, because he's still, the mentality, right, is going to be like, man, my life, he's going to feel like his life is over, and it's not.
Right.
And you don't know, you want to watch him, because we've seen cases where guys were in a situation and they took their own lives because they like, my life is over, and it's like, no, it's not. So I think that's the biggest thing I see here. I deal with a lot of mental health. I talk about it on my podcast, Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge, a lot, because we as people, not just athletes, we as people on the daily, we got to get our oil checked, and that's why when I start an interview, I know it's interview, what's the word? It's kind of frowned upon starting an interview with, hey, how you doing? I do that on purpose because sometimes people don't even get asked how they're doing ever. I've picked this up in the last couple years. I've been living in Texas, and every place I go, I walk in. If I meet eye contact with somebody, I say, "Hey, how you doing?" They be like, "Oh, I'm doing good," or you know what, I'm having a so-so day. But so that's what you're going to have to do with this young man, because he's, like you said, he's 23. He's young. He was a vital part of this defense going in, from last year to this year. He's been in the league a couple of years, and now this hits. So keep an eye on him and just make sure he gets all the support he needs all around. And then best way possible, make this transition out of the game for him, whoever's supporting him, be there, and make sure they say they do what they say they're going to do, get his life straight. And he's going to learn from this mistake. This is accountability 101 right here. You're an adult now. You made a decision, and now the accountability is you serving your time, and then what you're going to do at that time being served.
Now, just picking up on what you were saying there, Ahman, how important would it be for his teammates not to turn their backs on him? Obviously, he's going to get support from his family, but how important is that family inside that locker room to continue to reach out to him with what he's going through, to continue to support him and let him know that he's still a part of their family, the guys, whether it's in that DB room or whether it's the guys, just overall anybody on that team that he was close to really continue to support him?
Priority number one. I reached out with the stuff that happened with Josh Jacobs a few months ago or a month ago, whatever that is, right away. Day one, as soon as I heard it, I just texted him, "Hey man, I got your back. If your family needs anything, I have friends and family in Green Bay area." I talked to his agent, told him right away, because I've been down that road, unfortunately, right, in my life, in my career, and I know how it feels. You feel like a shutout. Everybody's think you a bad guy and things of that nature. And yeah, unfortunately, he made a mistake. He's going to pay for it, but he's still human at the end of the day. So priority for any of his teammates, please reach out. Coaches, coaches even better. Can the coach, the owner, the GM, reach out to this young man? To think and go as far as he's gone in these charges, that means some way in his head, there was a lot of thoughts misleading for him. Not saying the way he grew up was bad. Nope, he had a mistake, and now this is the road to recovery for him. It starts now, going through whatever process it goes through to the next step to, serve his time or what have you, and then go from there. And I say he got to have the people around him that's going to not only support him, but also keep it real with him. But they say, hey, you made this mistake. Now you got to own up to it. You're an adult. This is what adults do. And this is how you get back on the road to recovery of showing people that you're going to be better than what you did now here at 22, 23 years old.
He was drafted, and this is as fate would have it, to fill a spot that was left by Cam Sutton. The Lions signed Cam Sutton in March of 2023. And by March of 2024, he was facing domestic abuse charges, and the Lions released him. They then drafted Terrion Arnold to fill that spot, and now that spot is void. You brought up Josh Jacobs. I don't know if you look back at your career and you look at Josh Jacobs now and you look at the situations we just talked about, but if you dealt with that inside of a locker room and how a team deals with that, how they deal with the distractions, the questions about their teammate, how they go into a season with this hanging over the team, and just what that process is like. If you've been through it, can you just explain how that works inside the team?
Yeah, as a team, the players, they just focus on the players. They focus on each other. So they drown out all this, right? This show, us, talking heads, they drown all that out and say, hey, we're here for football. That's it. Because that's the best thing is going to make that player feel good. If somebody like Josh is going to be, like Josh, for example, he's going to be back in that locker. He's in that locker room now. He had his mini camp. He had his OTAs and then training camp here in a few weeks. So for any player that's been down that road, the biggest thing is just let me focus on football. And now I say that was my thing during my time. I just want to get in that locker room. I don't want to open the playbook, started highlighting stuff, getting all my, my details highlighted so I know what I'm doing on every play. That's all. I just want to focus on that and then get away from that. You have to try to understand that it's a separation, right? For us to be the athletes that we want to be, and fortunately life comes in, can't control it. But the way to make sure you still in full control or closest control, a majority of control as possible is take over the fact, okay, I'm still playing football, baseball, basketball, running track, golf, tennis, hockey, whatever. I got to play ball. I got to do my thing. And then when I'm done, when it says 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., I got to go home. Now let's deal with it. If I got to talk to family members, I got to talk to a lawyer or whomever that's in the situation now until it's, situation is completed. Do that, because that was the best thing for me was when I was in the locker room and I was around my guys and we talk football, because it's a stress, right? When you go through something like this, it's very, very, very stressful. So when you don't talk about or be in your element, then it just throws you way off. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you anxious. And, being a leader is uncomfortable, but, you're in a situation is either out of your control or was in your control, and you made a decision and did it, and now you got to pay for it. The repercussions are, hearing it on the news every day or newspaper or wherever or people talking about it at the grocery store, in the line, whatever, you overhear them. It's those things. So then now you got to be like, all right, I want to put myself in that situation. What am I going to do? Start holding yourself accountable. And then, like I said, once you're in the locker room, the biggest thing is let's just talk football, y'all. Let's get the X's and O's down. This is just as OTA, so we're just doing vanilla formations, stuff like that. And, or come training camp, all right, we're doing install for offense 1 and defense 2. Let's get down to the gritty. Let's do that. And then that player then feels a little bit more comfortable every day, because then they'll stay in that mindset. Okay, look, my teammates still love me. They still got my back. My coaches still support me. That's the biggest thing that they are looking for. And, that's the one thing I was looking for. And I got it right away. It was no doubt my teammates had my back. They had it 100%. They, not even, bring up nothing that went on outside. It was all football. And that's why I love them. My offensive linemen, my quarterbacks that I had Aaron, I had Brett, and guys that were backups to them, Matt Hasselbeck and crew, that Aaron Brooks that was there when I first got there, and Donald, all those guys. We still talk to them because we were that close. Donald and Marco and Mike Wall and Chad Clifton, all those guys, Mark Tauscher, William Henderson, those guys is why, we were good, because we were a family first. We were brothers first. And when something would go down with one another, we would hurry up to come help them, and we knew what they needed. It's like, hey, let's just talk football. Let's just talk sport. You're in the locker room now. We got OT, we got practice, we got meetings first and then practice, and let's go do that. Let's have some fun out here. Let's be kids again, on the football field.
Well, despite the fact that he's no longer a Detroit Lion, we certainly do wish Terrion Arnold all the best, and hope this works out for him down the road, that he does get the support and the help that he needs in his life. But to your point, let's talk football now. And since we're talking about Josh Jacobs, let's start right there with the Green Bay Packers, because last year was not his best year. He's getting a little bit older. He's got some things on his mind now outside of football that he's going to have to sort of, as you say, block out and get his focus back on the game. As we talk about the Packers and we look at the year ahead, he's going to be a big part of it. What do you see from him? What's the expectation from him at this point in his career with this team going forward this year?
I see that, barring injury, that this is going to be verbatim what we saw the last 2 years in Green Bay. He's a hard runner. He's a great receiver at the backfield. He picks up the blitz, and then he's from his gameplay, he probably don't say, from what I see from the sidelines, from the game telecast, he doesn't say much on the sideline. Everything is his actions. In the locker room, maybe I don't know if he's a talker or not. Next time I see him and talk to him, I ask him, does he say much in the locker room? Because I was kind of quiet too, which is okay. If you're a leader, you lead by action. Those are some good leaders too. So he leads by action from what I see, and is outstanding. And he's also a motivator because of the way he plays. And then that helps out the offense. And then once you got the run game going, and that's where Matt and whoever else is calling plays with him can put a good game plan together, because you go back to the first home game against Detroit. That game, I would think, and be honest, I'm being real. I know my Packers, just like I thought coming out the jump, it would be a Lions game, because the year before, they had got beat up really good by the Lions, your Lions. And so I was thinking maybe it's going to be like a dominant physical game, but then Green Bay came out, and part of that physicality was Josh Jacobs. So they proved me wrong in that first home game in Lambeau Field last year. And so that is something where when he's on it, when he's doing his job as a running back, and I had this during my career too, when we start the game off fast offensively and run game is there, then that defense has a different mindset. The defense comes on the field like we're going to get the ball back to you because we want to stay on the sideline for another 10, 15 minutes. And that type of, you were hearing those comments from Leroy and from Gilbert and Bernardo and stuff like that. It's like, hey, man, keep doing what you're doing because we got a cup of tea and some lemonade over here. We good. So with Josh and the O-line is going that way along with the pass game, then Jordan Love and crew, it makes it easier on the defense.
That defense, though, a big hole to start the season without Micah Parsons in there after that knee injury sidelined him for the rest of last season. Where is he at right now? I hear that he's ready to come back hopefully mid-October, but what do you know about his situation right now and how much is that impacting how effective this defense can be for the Packers coming up?
It's going to be effective. I say probably I would say definitely over 50% in terms of stopping teams, but the game, this is just my opinion, right? This ain't going to happen. I'm just predicting. It's like the weatherman. I might be wrong. Prove me wrong. Okay. All right. But just like that, I feel it'll be a little bit of difference, right? Because it's Micah Parsons. I mean, he's a game changer. So let's just be real. When he's on the game, he's on the field, you're going to see what the heck happens. When he's off the field, we're going to see what the heck happens. And it may not be much. You may not be much pressure on the quarterback. It may not be tackle for losses in the run game, things of that nature, disruption as we see when he's on the field. So with him coming back, I remember reading and what he made when he made his announcement. He said, hey, look, we got a game plan. I'm doing well. I'm going to come back, similar to the time where he went out, which was sometime in late November, early December. And I'm okay with that. If I'm between a teammate in that locker room or Brian Gutekunst up in the offices, I'm saying to myself, and Matt LaFleur and Gannon, who just got there, those four guys, if I'm any of those four guys, I'm like, go ahead. Take your time. We want you back 100%. I am not rushing you at all because I already know what you're going to do when you're 100% balling. So what, you want to come back on Christmas? No problem. We make sure we get the offense and got the defense doing their job because the next man up mentality. We got to play ball. So then Micah Parsons come back with not a worry in the world. You know what? This guy come sack the quarterback. I got one thing to do through the month of December, getting into the playoffs. Just go get the quarterback and I'll do my job. And then boom. I think that is a lot less stressful to try to push him coming back sometime in October or whatever. I think for me, that's ACL, give it its full rest or full time of recovery without the stress, without thinking head, we need him now. No, we don't need him now. We need him when we need him when he's ready to go.
That line's going to look different, though. No Rashawn Gary, they've got to rebuild. What other additions and subtractions on the defensive side are the Packers facing this year, and what sort of impact will that have?
I know they went into the draft and got the DBs they wanted. They got a kid, I believe, out of South Carolina, and who was is it Chessie? I think it's Chessie, Brandon Chessie or something like CISSE. It's like Sissy or something. I'm sorry, I don't want to mess it up too bad. I'll figure it out later. But
I do a lot of hockey. I try to say Russian names. I'm messing them up all the time.
Yeah, so good. I say one thing I always tell fans. I tell my friends and family. When you're drafting, it's always good to draft right now where the game is at, even though, we got to play respect. The run game is respected. If not, you get beat up for not having it. But to be real, it's always good to draft DBs and wide receivers and O-linemen. And that's what they got. They got 2 defensive backs, one out of South Carolina. And let me see, I had the list up here earlier. They had Brandon out of South Carolina and then Damani Jackson out of Alabama. So that's great. And then they got a center with Jager Burton out of Kentucky and defensive tackle, Chris McKellen out of Missouri. So one for me is getting those 2 DBs because it's inventory, one. And 2, if a kid coming out of Alabama, Jackson right there, he's coming from a program obviously that puts out defenders, and they are in a good situation because they got everything under the sun since Saban left, so they can prepare him for the best. And it's like playing for a pro football team down there in Alabama anyway, so he's already ready to go. So I think those vital parts in the draft was a big deal. And I think free agency, they picked up a linebacker, I think from Dallas or somewhere. And so filling in the needs is priority number 1 for a GM and head coach and defensive coordinator in the offseason. I think they filled in definitely from one, we're going to find out talent-wise, but definitely from an inventory standpoint, both the DBs from, one from Alabama, one from So South Carolina, both SEC schools, that means hyper competitive. So they know how to go out there and play ball. They know how to be physical as DBs. They know how to, try to get the ball out. They know how to, defend, beat up a wide receiver to make it hard for them to catch the ball.
I'm really, really wondering what your thoughts on Matthew Golden are and his upside, because that wide receiver room, you lose Romeo Dobbs. I'm just wondering where Matthew Golden is. Is he ready to elevate? Is he ready to become that guy that's going to eat up those extra targets now? Where is he at? And just talk about some more additions and subtractions on the offensive side of the ball that are going to impact the Pack this year.
Yeah, and I say Matthew Golden got to understand that, him being a first-round pick, coming out of Texas, has nothing to do why his year went. Because he still got to get introduced to things. He's seeing defenses played a little different, nothing new he hasn't seen since he was in college, in Texas, but this, players that take their job a little bit more seriously than the kids that do in college, right? So you got DBs, you got linebackers that understand that if you are going to have him in the slot and then seeing how big he is, he's not that big, we're going to put a body on him, even if it's zone, just chuck him going over the middle. He's going to get hit. I've seen plays where physically sometimes players would just get in his face and, knock him down or whatever. He just wasn't running a clean route. And the referees ain't going to throw that. They're not going to throw the flag. They're going to let the play, go out, because it's nothing, it's football. Sometimes you're going to run across the middle and the linebacker is going to, give you a stiff, give you a shoulder when you're trying to run your crossing route and you're trying to sit in the zone, and maybe the referee don't catch it. But I think some of those plays, seeing, some of his stats not being where he thought it would be, because I'm pretty sure any rookie first round pick that's going to then get a lot of time in their head, they got aspirations of being the starter, obviously, but then going out there and making big plays. And so what they got to look at is just being a rookie, adjusting to all those defenses and the defensive players they play against within there. They're scheming. They know Matthew's fast, so they're going to make sure, hey, we see number one run across the middle. We're going to make sure we chuck him, or zero, and we're going to give him a little shoulder in music to see where he's paying attention, if he, and trying to read his route. Things like that. Linebackers are good for that. DBs too, not letting them off the ball, holding them for that, for that time they can hold within that 5 yards, and then letting them go. And by that time, Matthew is wide receivers are frustrated because they don't like being held. They want to get open. They want to try and make big plays for the team. So as a wide receiver, you got to get in a wide receiver's head and say, hey, especially a young one, you started early. Like, look, it's always going to be tough because this is a passing game now where they're going to try to disrupt everything you do from the time you get off the ball to the time you catch the ball. They're trying to throw your rod off, throw your timing off with you and Jordan or the quarterback, and just be aware of that and be okay with it. You got to be okay with that, because you being okay with it then takes them out of the game. So them trying to do things to you physically, mentally, where the defensive coordinator is, bracketing you or anything like that as a wide receiver, he had to understand, okay, you know what? They're bracketing me. That means somebody else is open because there's two guys on me. Tucker, you might be open on this play, and if we run this play in the game and they bracket me, Tucker, boom, you should get the ball, and then find out things like that, because that's what I remember when I started to make my time on the field, and linebackers, safeties were in the box. I remember seeing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and I see all the Hall of Famers they had, from John Lynch, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, I know why they're there. They're there to stop me, So you got to take it as a compliment, because they know he's a fast receiver. He's not big in stature, but he can't get by you. And if he gets by you, it's over. So that he got to look at it as, oh, you know what? Thank you. You respect my game. That means I got to go out here and show you my game. Now he just got to show up and understand it's not nothing he didn't do. He just got to push a little harder and be the guy he was drafted to be.
You mentioned Tucker Kraft. How big a weapon can he be for Jordan Love?
The biggest weapon. He's awesome because he's a Swiss Army knife. He does everything. He runs the ball. He catches the ball. I'm sure he might have thrown the ball once or twice this past couple years.
Tight ends throwing the ball. That's not something you see every day.
Right, but no one. If I have him, I know him. We've done some events together. Great guy, family man, and one heck of an athlete. So him doing that, all of that, throwing the ball, catching the ball, so him coming back is a vital part, because then you not only have a guy that's going to help off the pass game, you have a guy that helps off the run game. He's a run blocker first. And that's the one thing other two things, I say 1A or 1B that I like about him, because he blocks. Any tight end with his worth his weight in gold, Pro Bowl or not, you're going to be tight. You're going to be blocking. And doing that, he does a heck of a job. He owns it. He loves it. He loves putting linebackers, and he definitely loves DBs if they get in front of him. He's like to plant them in the ground. So along with that, and then the receivers that they have on the roster, it could be something, like I said, just as last year, it went through some battles. They had some good wins, some good losses. But at the end of the day, once you get certain people back, it's going to be different, and it'd be optional for Jordan Love back there. He's not just keying in on one or two guys. And I've seen games, and we saw this last year, where he went to multiple, like 8 or 9 receivers in a game. And that's something beautiful, because when you do that, it's hard to find a receiver to try to take out of your rotation or out of your progression to say, if we take him out, then we stop him. But no, when you go on another 6 other receivers, then it's like, oh man, who do we key on? You can't. So you just got to be honest as a defense and play the best way you can.
We had to get to Jordan Love, and I was on doing a Bears show last week with Ryan McGuffey, and he says he believes Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in this division. Ooh. I'm not sure where you think that Jordan Love stacks up against quarterbacks in this division, but his play is obviously going to be important to the fortunes of the Green Bay Packers. Where do you rank him in the division, and where is he at in his career right now in your mind?
Oh man, I would say in the division rank, I would say from a athletic standpoint, because I see what I've seen already from Caleb Williams from the time from Oklahoma to USC. He scrambles a little bit better, obviously, than Jordan Love. I say from the arm talent is going to be, I think, another edge to Caleb, but not by much. It's because what Caleb does with his legs, he's adapted to doing it. If I'm running to my right and I got throwback left, he's built his core up strong enough to get it back to across his body. Mm-hmm. So that's where he's just an edge bigger. He's not head over heels better than Jordan Love. No, he is. Is he better than Jordan? Just a tad bit. And those are the reason why is that when you see him scramble, when you see Caleb run around the pocket, buy time for himself, when some of it was unwarranted, but he did it anyway. But he's still able to get the ball out with velocity and all that, then that is another talent you develop while on the run and learning things. And so I think that's something he got better at, and that's what makes him that tad better. Something that Jordan didn't have to do a whole lot of scrambling, because he had good blockers.
Right.
So it's kind of, like I said, it's not really like a good thing, like why it's not, Caleb's better than Jordan. It's like, well, Caleb didn't have great blocking in Chicago. So yeah, that's why he was scrambling and doing amazing passes, because he was forced to do that. Jordan obviously doesn't scramble a whole lot. I say may not, that wasn't the reason we drafted him. We drafted him because he has a phenomenal arm and he can make good decisions with the ball. We got running backs for that. That's what I say. But if he can pick up a first down. He's not going to be a Caleb in terms of the speed and all that. And we get that. That's okay. But in terms of the pass game, having last year 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, that is something awesomeness, because that's pretty much a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 ratio right there, if not higher, because then he's making we know he's making good decisions, but now obviously want the touchdowns a little bit higher, because you got 3 other quarterbacks, 3 other teams in this division that are all vying for position. And we look at the quarterbacks, like you mentioned, from Jordan here with us to Caleb in Chicago, and then Jared Goff in Detroit, and then Minnesota right now. It looks like it's going to be potentially Kyler Murray. He gets brought in as a free agent, and they still got J.J. McCarthy on the bench and trying to figure himself out. And hopefully these injuries doesn't end his career, which would be sad, because he had a fantastic college career. He got drafted first round and was a guy up until the injury his rookie year that he was, being tone or career developed into the next quarterback for them. So a high rated quarterbacks in this division. I'll probably go Caleb number 1, Jordan is right after him, and then Jared Goff, and then on to because I don't know who the starter is in Minnesota yet. We'll find out, but a toss up between Kyler Murray and Kyler. I'll say if he is starting, I'll put him above Jared Goff.
Really,
Yep.
really tough division. The
Yeah.
only division in football last year where every team in it finished above 500. However,
Right.
the Green Bay Packers finished the season on a 4-game skid, and then that huge comeback, that miraculous game by the Bears in the playoffs, which knocked them out of the playoff hunt. What's the temperature of this team coming into this year? Because right now, FanDuel has them, the win total over under set at 9.5. I don't know whether you're taking the over or under on that, but they're coming in. Obviously, they must have a chip on their shoulder. But where is the temperature right now, given the way the Packers finished last year?
Man, I would say the temperature at is still high. I believe the temperature is around what it can be in the off season, about 85% or 85 degrees or whatever how you want to read it. Looking at the schedule coming out the box, you got 2 road games, you got one in Minnesota, and then you go to New York, and you don't know what you're gonna get with either team really, because they're basically on the rebuild. But 2 solid matchups in them. I like the Jets game because it's on the road and they have a defensive head coach. And so get tested there for sure. Vikings too, because again, you may not know where they're at. They might start with Kyler Murray. They might be starting with McCarthy. Kyler Murray is most likely going to get the nod, but until then, we got to watch training camp, see how that goes. So, with that start of the season right there, this is going to weigh in on the second month of the season, because once you get out the 2 road games and then they come back home from one against the Falcons, which is as we know is a good team, good young team, but then they got Buccaneers, Bears, and then Cowboys, and then Lions. So that I say they said 9.5 as wins.
9.5. Yeah, 9.5
Yeah.
is where it's set.
I say maybe 10 for me.
Going over, you taking the over?
I'm gonna take the over on that. I'll take the over because I believe in.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking the over because one, I believe in my guys. I believe in Jordan and that offense, and I like the defense. And regardless of when Micah comes back, I said, as a coach, you tell him come back when you're ready. And in your head, as you're coaching, you got to coach the guys up. Gannon has to coach those guys up and get them ready for his scheme, what he believes in, and get them to understand that and how effective they can be within his scheme. And then that's what they go focus on. They can't focus on, oh man, when we're going to get Micah back. And no, we got to go with the guys that are here right now and make plays and be dominant right now. And then when we get Micah in, then it's no step miss. It's just a flow into him coming in. And now it's going to be a problem because now we got a guy that's going to, again, bring in the disruption and bring up the quarterback getting pressured, the run game not doing much, and just an offense. Him making the offense disrupt, in flux while he's out there on the football field.
Let me tell you why I'm taking the under. I appreciate you love your guys and everything, but this division especially, every game is so important.
Correct.
And when you're missing a guy like Micah Parsons right out of the box, if you're going to miss him for a month, that's a month of, slippage at that position you can really not afford when the margins are so tight in this division. The schedule is a tough one after you get past the first couple of weeks and some question marks. We're talking about that wide receiver room that's changed a lot right now. And on that defensive line, some of the changes right there. I think by the time they get themselves up to speed, it could be too late. So I'm going to take the under on 9.5. But let's go to the division right now as far as the FanDuel odds go. They've got the Lions picked to win the division at plus 140. Then they've got the Packers at plus 270 or second, and the Bears are third, followed by the Vikings. How do you see the division shaking out? Because like I said, one of the toughest divisions in football. Everybody in that division finished above 500 last year, and it's going to be a dogfight from week one. How do you see this division shaking out?
The division shaking out at the end is basically what I kind of saw last year. The healthiest team was going to probably be up there, and
that was not the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions was beat. It's a triage going on.
Yeah.
It was MASH, that old TV show from the 80s that I used to watch late at night. It was that. It was guys hurt in positions they needed, and when you got guys out, then the next person up, we know obviously it's next man up mentality, but they not be that quality of a player, which is unfortunate. And so unfortunate for them.
Which is why I say that about without Micah Parsons and on the changes on your D line.
Exactly. So, having that division being where it is now, I think one is great for us as fans to watch because it's going to be good football. It's going to be battles out there. And this is where we're going to see where the coaching and the talent mixed together and see if it's working. We got Gannon coming in from Arizona as the head coach, coming back to his defensive coordinator position with the Packers to see how he gets in this game in terms of, playing against the three teams that are in the division and all the games that they got to play on the road or in Lambeau, and how he motivates and gets that defense to execute. That's going to be, for me, for the Packers, one big thing. For all the, the fighting at the top, it's just going to be a fun thing to watch, because between Caleb, Jordan, and Jared Goff, and those three teams right there, those three teams is going to be the ones. Basically, it's going to be what's his name used to say back in the day, Chris Berman, the black and blue division. Yes. That is back. Yes. So it's going to be basically, again, how I say like last year, the injury factor is going to be key to see who's in there and who's not at key positions, be it center, guard, tackle, running back, receiver, quarterback. If everybody's fully go for any team in this division, that team is going to have the upper hand, because all these starters in this division are all Pro Bowl caliber. They're good quality players. They know how to they know how to sometimes, it's not sometimes, they have taken over games for all the starters. Caleb Wilson has done that. Jordan Love has done that. Jared Goff has done that with his receivers. They didn't take over games. So the biggest thing is who is going to be the healthiest and who can be the physical team come December for the January playoff push. So
run it down for me, 1 to 4. Who you got?
1 to 4. Okay, I got to do this. Yeah. Do the forecast.
You know what? We're all weathermen right now. We don't know how accurate we're going to be. Like we'll take a shot at it.
Yeah, I'm a geography major, so I don't mind this, because I always said I wanted to be the weatherman, because the weatherman, even if he's wrong, he doesn't lose his job. So here we go. Man, it's going to be a tough one for me, because I watch Chicago and they play so tough, and they got a guy who's leading that team who is one of those leaders that he's got guys locked in on him and how he's playing. If he was a player, he'll be a physical player, is their head coach. I can't think of his name right now, but it's having him as a leader that could Chicago give him one leg up on anybody in the division. So one is from 4. I'll start down to below Minnesota, and then Detroit, and then us, and then Chicago at the top right now. That's being real. That's just being real, because I remember his name now. Ben Johnson has got that. Yeah, exactly. With those two things in his back pocket, he brings something that I don't see a lot of coaches in the NFL. I see coaches like this at the college level and at the high school level, where they bring that emotion to the locker room. Not saying that Matt LaFleur doesn't do it, but I haven't seen it a ton, right? He probably does it in the locker room, which is fine. That it doesn't have to be on camera and all that, as long as he's doing something. And I'm pretty sure he's doing something within that locker room for the Packers. But Chicago, I say time is about there, but we're going to see how this season starts up too. But I think right now, and that's just to give, if any of my friends out there are watching, from Packers to Packer fans, that say, hey, this is motivation, right? And that I'm picking this because this gives me, not me, but my friends, players, coaches that I know on that roster, something to shoot for. Man, I'm going to pick the Packers or the Bears over us. Well, I'm doing it because of what I see and I hear and I feel that Ben Johnson has his finger on the pulse of his locker room. Not saying that Matt LaFleur does, not saying that any other coach doesn't do in this division. But when you seen it last year, when the Bears was running the gamut and gumming down the line for the season, I saw a different Bears team. I saw a Bears team that I saw when I was playing, when they had Mr. Urlacher and Lance Briggs and those guys that went to the Super Bowl, right? That's the type of feeling I'm seeing. So just going off of that for myself, when you play the game, you kind of see when a team has momentum. And right now, Chicago has momentum in the division. And that's just speaking cold, hard facts right there.
Not that the Bears-Packers rivalry needed any more to stir that up, historically speaking, especially. But last year, you talked about Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur, where he wouldn't shake his hand after the game. Yeah. He was talking trash about the Packers. Right out loud. He said it with his full chest, too. And that's stirring his team up. That's stirring this rivalry up again, too. And to what you said, this is going to incentivize Packer players along the line. But what were your thoughts of that when you saw that last year?
I was like, hey, he has every right to say that. He has every right to say and do that. Why? Because Matt LaFleur would do it himself. You know that. And I know that. As a player, within the locker room, cameras on or cameras off, it don't matter, because they trying to motivate the team out there, right? They're trying to get their players to do whatever they can to win this game. And that's what Ben Johnson understands. He understands it just as well when he was at, I don't know where he was, at NASA or somewhere, because he's a computer IT guy. He's very smart. But it's football, and you got to have everybody on board. The way you do that is you get to know your players and get what they know, what they want to hear, and not just say it to say it. You got to believe it. You got to put your whole heart in it, and you got to do things like he does. Especially this past season, the things he's done. Every bear in that locker room said, "I will go through a brick wall for this guy," and he's done that. And as long as you get your players to think that way, where I'll fight for him as a coach, and that's hard in the NFL. That's hard in NBA. That's hard in NHL. MLB. It's hard to do that because of some coaches don't get that time enough to get and become like almost just like the players. They're in with those guys, and he's been taking his shirt off and cheering and talking trash, and it's going to be, like I said, it's a whole nother, it's like a multiplier to what that already, like you mentioned, the rivalry already is. It becomes a multiplier because he brings in a whole new element of enthusiasm to his team. And I know I've seen Matt LaFleur do it. He has it too. He better bring it out if he wants to bring it to that next level.
Right.
Ain't saying he got a copycat Ben, but do it in his way to get the guys behind him, to let them know that I got your back. That means you got my back. We ready to run through this division because we're going to have to do it together, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So as the host of Believe in Packers, and we wrap this show up, whether it's your audience, our audience, you want to talk to the Lions, whoever you want to talk to out there, what is your message about the Packers' upcoming season that you want to leave us with here on this show?
Oh, man, it's going to be another, I'd say, for Packer fans listening in and anybody else, Packers season is going to be interesting. I mean, just like I think every football team has an interesting start of the season, and then it goes on into, March, September, October, November, each push of that, try to win that month. Winning the month is going where you get, 3 wins and 1 loss or 4-0 in every month. That is something they got to focus on and do that. You're going to see good, solid football. We got Josh Jacobs in there running the ball. So to be apt to know that the offense is going to test the defenses of the 3 teams in the division and the teams they face along the way, because if they're going to test them with the run game to see if they can hold it up or they can stop it. And if they don't, they're going to have a long day, because now you're going to have number 8 coming at you and number 0, 12 or 9. That's Christian Watson, these different receivers. And then 85 is back, will be back. And all that is when you get a full Packer offense rolling on full steam, then that's hard to stop. And so I think that's what the Packers, the players want to do out there, and the coaching staff definitely wants to do, because that's their goal. They want to get through the division, win the division, and get to number 1 seed and get through the playoffs and the home field advantage and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be a good season for these guys.
Packers Hall of Famer, their all-time leading rusher, and the host of Believe in Packers. He is the great Ahman Green. Ahman, can't thank you enough for taking the time to break down the Packers with us on this edition of Believe in Lions, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Good luck to you in the Packers this year. We're going to circle back during the year, and we'll talk about it as we preview the Lions and Packers this season, and get your thoughts on how these things are rolling out as the season goes on in the NFC North. It is going to be a good one. Thanks for the time, my guy. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome, Trevor. Appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
All right. And everybody out there, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to share and enjoy Believe in Lions. And we'll catch you on the next edition coming up soon when we preview the Minnesota Vikings of the NFC North.